Hello fellow woodworkers, today I want to tell you how to get the best from your Arbortech Mini-TURBO plane. I've got one fitted here directly to an angle grinder using the shaft, but you can of course just fit it to a mini grinder like so, and use it just as you would normally a mini grinder. It does allow you to do some nice flat cuts, but you remember there's no cutting edge on the outside, the perimeter, so it won't cut on the edge. So this is how the Mini-TURBO comes to you in a packet like so, in a kit with sanding discs. The sanding discs are great, by the way. I'll give you a little tip about how to make your own sanding discs as well. But it also comes with this shaft, and this shaft is the most popular way to use the tool, directly on the angle grinder, and probably does some of the most interesting cuts. It comes with a key to loosen and replace the teeth, and it comes with this adapter. Now this shaft usually has in Australia and Europe a M14 thread to fit most of the larger grinders, and it has an adapter to an M10 for some of the smaller grinders. Generally it'll fit every angle grinder on the market in Europe and Australia. In the United States it comes with a 5/8 thread, and we do have an adapters to an M10 for some of those which may be available in the US as well. So basically it will fit onto any standard angle grinder. Now, it's important to understand exactly how the Mini-TURBO plane works. All right? Normally having a blade on a shaft like this would present a problem if there was a large cutting edge on the outside, because if it got caught into something, it would want to go out of control. Now this blade has no cutting edge on the outside. It's very, very finely tuned. It will cut exactly in that axis, in that direction, but not in that direction. And that allows some wonderful cuts, but it must be understood it doesn't cut on the outer perimeter. Another important factor that you need to understand is that the depth that you can plunge in at any one time is only half the distance of the cutter. So if you see here inside here, there's a little step in there. It'll only ride down to that point. If you want to go deeper, you must go left or right to take away the intervening material that's left by this cutter. I'll just demonstrate that first. So if I was to hold this blade and just try to plunge it straight down, it would cut a donut shape, the shape of this cutter, but it won't go down any further than that depth there. So if I try to go straight down, as you can see, it's left this part in the middle and it won't remove that. So it doesn't matter how hard I push down, it won't cut any further. The way that this cutter is designed to work is you need to sweep it as you go. So if I want to go deeper, I need to sweep the blade. So if I remove the inner portion here, I'll now be able to go deeper. So in effect, this acts as a depth limiter. It actually prevents the tool from grabbing, from trying to penetrate too deep. It actually sets the depth, and then you can sweep from side to side to remove the material. So now the basic cuts. All right, so there's no cutting edge on the perimeter. If I place it dead level like so, it will not cut. If I start to lean it over, it starts to cut, and if I want to plane the wood, I bring it up to level and just gently sweep, and I can do a very nice light planing cut. Now it's important to know that it's rotating in a clockwise direction. Therefore, if I lean it slightly this way, it'll always gently pull away. There's very little grabbing or snatching with this blade, so you can lean it in other directions, but that I find is the most pleasant for sweeping. So there we go. Now, I mentioned that it doesn't cut on the edge, and so of course you can use guides and templates. I've just nailed this guide on, but you can just clamp it on. I just want to just show you how you just run it against a guide, and you can get a nice straight edge. So if I was doing a bowl, for instance, I could put straight edges around there, and I could use that as a guide so that I could just get to the edges and then scoop out the middle. That's a really good way. I could use circular guides, curved guides, etc. But just for this demonstration, just to show you how it will run against that and cut down. So here we go. Once you've started using a guide, once you've got the cut started, you can actually just remove the guide. Like so, and you've now got the edge that's already on there, and you can continue to keep going down using that. Of course, the Mini Turbo can be used for completely freehand work, just to remove wood wherever you want. So, putting on an angle. For hollowing out, etc., probably on about a 35 to 45 degree angle is really nice. And again, the trick to remember is this is rotating in a clockwise direction. Therefore, any surface to the right, it always pulls away from the user, and that makes it very, very easy to control. Probably the worst case scenario is at about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in that angle, because it's turning in this direction, and that would make a normal disc want to kick back at me. Because of the way this is tuned, though, it's very gentle, so I'll just demonstrate that. So as you can see, it is possible to use it in its worst position. That is at about the 9 to 10 o'clock angle. That's where it is the most difficult to control. But the very fine tuning of this blade is what makes it very, very steady. Now, you'll notice that I can go straight down here. Now, an important thing to understand about this blade, I must reiterate, there is no cutting edge on the outside, but it should cut exactly in this direction. Now, it is limited by this surface here, so you do have to move the blade around to keep cutting down. But if I was to progress here, I should be able to get a nice square angle here. I should be able to progress straight down with a nice straight edge. If for some reason it wants to wander, like it has here, if it's starting to always put a curve in there so that you can't get a nice straight edge, then you've probably got build-up on the outside of the blade. And I'll show you how to correct this if you do have that problem. So here I have a blade with a large build-up of resin on the side. You can see that it's not wearing nice and clean here. The resin is building up and preventing it from biting really nicely on its side. So with this particular blade, it won't cut down nice and square, but it will follow a path somewhat like this, where it'll curving away from the surface, from the vertical surface. Now, to correct this, first of all, it should remove it from your machine. You get your Torx head key, and you must remove the teeth. Now, a little trick to removing the teeth, if it's bound up, which often happens if you've been using a lot of green wood or wood with a lot of resin in it, it can get bound up, and it's important to get a pin or something down into the head and to clean it out so that you get a good bite, a good purchase with the Torx head key. If you don't, you can just slip and just round the key off. If you do manage to round the key off, you just touch that up on a grinder and it'll come up sharp again. So if you still have troubles releasing that tooth, then perhaps soaking it overnight in something like, I find Windex window cleaner works really well, but sometimes just CRC or a lubricant can work as well, but it often won't dissolve the resin. Anyhow, I just loosen these teeth off. And take it off. And what I'm going to do is fit it back to the grinder without the teeth. So there are the teeth. So what I have here is a sanding block. I've put the blade back onto the angle grinder with no teeth on it. By the way, whenever you're doing any work with your angle grinder, please just make sure that it's unplugged. Very good little safety precaution. So there are no teeth on it, and what I'm going to do is run the grinder on the sandpaper there, and then bring it over up to completely flat and back again a few times, and completely clean up that outer edge and get that exposure of the tooth back on the sides. So I've fitted the Mini-Turbo plane back onto an angle grinder, but I've taken the teeth off. I'm now going to plug it in, and I'm going to run it on the emery cloth or the sandpaper and clean up the outside edge right up to the vertical. So you can see it now, it's all nice and clean. If I fit the cutters back on, this should be a nice running Mini-Turbo plane again. So now I've replaced the carbide teeth. Remember, you can rotate them to a new sharp edge, but now I've cleaned up this surface here so that there's no resin on it, and now this should work beautifully. So I'll just try it. So now the tool works perfectly. So the blade shouldn't cut in that direction, but should cut in that direction. So if I lean it slightly like so, it shouldn't cut. If I press down, it won't cut. I'll then lean it in a little bit, and it should cut like so. So that was not cutting. Now, because I was leaning it slightly away, now I'll lean it just slightly in. So that's how the blade should be cutting, and you can see that's why it won't grab or pull, because it rides on this surface, it can't cut, and that acts as a guide and prevents it from biting. Now on the mini grinder, if you want to do slotting and cutting on that angle, you really are better off using one of either the mini industrial blade or the blades that come with the mini grinder. But if you want to do more smooth shaping, etc., particularly flat cutting, this blade is the blade for you, because although it won't cut in that position, it will cut a beautiful curve like so, and you can lay it completely flat. So I'll just show you first sweeping cuts. So I'm not sure if you can see on camera there, but it does a beautiful smooth sweeping cut. If I lay it down completely flat like so, it just so happens that that is flush with that, I can even rest on this point here and do beautiful flat cutting. So it does a beautiful job on the mini grinder as well. I think on the shaft I really enjoy it to be able to get into these sort of positions and do holes and things like that. But a beautiful tool. So that's it for the Mini-Turbo plane. This blade should last you a lifetime. It's very, very easy to maintain. Remember, you can loosen the tips, rotate them, so you can get many, many years out of those cutters before you replace them or resharpen them. And of course, if it does build up on the outside, if you find that you can't get that nice square cut, then just trim it up on the outside on a piece of emery cloth or something like that. Don't use it on your bare hands. We'll always use a block or something like that if you're trimming it. Always make sure that the teeth are removed, and that when you're actually working on the machine that you unplug it. Should last you a lifetime. Good luck and enjoy.